Hello and welcome to Paranormal Overtones Shorts, and today's episode, The Golden Ghost of Yr Wyddgrug, a tale which allows me to indulge a little bit in both my love of the paranormal and history. Today we travel to northeast Wales and the town of Yr Wyddgrug, or as it's more commonly known, Mold. On the outskirts of the town is the area called Penta, and that's where today you'd find the A531 and masses of houses. But in 1833, you would have been surrounded by fields instead. John Langford was tenant of the land in the 1830s and wanted to level it so that he would be able to plough it, and so directed workmen to dismantle a mound of earth now known to be a burial mound. Around 4 or 5 feet below the surface, the workers discovered a stone grave, and within the grave, aside from some crumbled thousand-year-old bones and some amber beads, they discovered the largest piece of prehistoric gold work uncovered in Europe. Dating back to the Bronze Age, the piece, now commonly known as the Mould Cape, was of an intricate design and no doubt would have adorned the shoulders of a chieftain or a priest. Unfortunately, archaeology at the time wasn't exactly cutting edge, and as the discovery was made by ground workers, no care or attention was paid to the artefact until they realised it was gold, at which point the workmen tore it into pieces. Thankfully, the cape eventually made its way into the hands of the British Museum and has subsequently mostly been restored to its former glory. But Mike, this is a paranormal podcast. Why do I care about a lump of gold dug up nearly 200 years ago, I hear you ask? Well, this isn't just a tale of the golden artefact. Wales is a land steeped in mythology, legend, and folklore. The hillside which once existed where the barrow was discovered had for years been called Bryn y Ellyllon. According to British Goblins, an 1881 book by Wirt Sykes, the Ellyllon are pygmy elves who haunt the groves and valleys. So, Bryn y Ellyllon directly translates to Hill of the Elves. The specific field where the cairn was discovered? Well, that was called Caer Ysbryd, which translates to Field of the Ghost. Tales had often been told in the area that a headless warrior riding a grey horse had been seen in the area on and around Chester Road, which is now the A531. However, it's another spectre which this tale is actually about. In the decades leading up to the discovery of the burial mound, an apparition had been sighted repeatedly by the public. Described as a gigantic figure, a spectre that was glittering and shining in gold, the apparition was reported to wander across Chester Road, stand atop the mound, and then either sit, lie down, or just disappear from vision. In 1810, whilst leading her drunken husband home, a woman spotted the golden ghost towering menacingly over a large stone mound known as the Tommen. The ghost was clothed in a raiment of gold which shone like the sun. It crossed the road, rested atop the Tommen, and then faded from view. The sight apparently scared the woman into fits and the man into sobriety. 18 years later, in 1828, a dressmaker had a somewhat more frightful encounter with the ghost. The experience was said to have left her crazed for 7 years after the event. The most well-attested sighting dates from 1830, where on a summer evening a respectable woman was riding home from the market in Mould. As she approached the Tommen, she saw a strange illumination in the trees on the opposite side of the road. As she kept watch, she was then aware of, and I quote, an apparition of unusual size and clothed with a suit of golden armour. The apparition left the wood, crossed the road, and disappeared directly into the mound. The woman was left in a stunned state, but returned back to Mould to convey her sighting to the vicar, Reverend Clough. Clough wrote down her experience and got 3 other people of note to witness it. Following the unearthing of the treasure, there have been no further sightings that I can find. Was the ghost wanting to have their remains recovered? Were the remains those of a loved one? Or could it be something else entirely? There are so many contradicting pieces of information in this case, I don't think we'll ever fully know the truth behind either the remains recovered or the golden ghost. The recovery of the artefact is stated as 1831 in some sources, 1833 in others. The Ordnance Survey map from 1900, which has the site marked down, shows the discovery as 1832. A plaque erected on the front wall of a house which now stands where the Tommen once did states, "A cairn in this field, explored in 1831, proved to be the burial place of an ancient British chief. His amber bead adornments and the exquisitely worked gold breastplate of his war horse are now treasured in the British Museum, London, and give credit to the genius of the Celt, so much admired by the Romans. Tradition ascribes this as possibly the grave of Bentley-Gower, a British prince." The British Museum have subsequently confirmed it is not a breastplate from a war horse, but have said because of the decay of the skeleton, they couldn't confirm the sex of the deceased. Although using contemporary burials of the Bronze Age, it would point to the burial of a woman and not of a man. So there we go. I'm afraid we end with more questions than answers this time. My main one being, in light of the witness from 1830, what exactly is an apparition of usual size if this one was so unusual? Maybe we'll never know. But during my research for this episode, I did find a quote from an unidentified Mold local, which I think fits perfectly. He said, "The great lesson I learned from that discovery was that through a labyrinth of old ghost stories, miracles, poetry, and legend, there is more real history than we have yet comprehended." Once again, this has been Paranormal Overtones Shorts. I've been Mike Lamb, and if you have an experience you want to share, we still absolutely want to hear from you. Drop us an email or get in touch through our socials, whether that's an experience of your own or an established ghost story for a Paranormal Overtones Shorts episode. Have an awesome day. Thanks for listening, or for one last really bad attempt at Welsh. Diolch a hwyl fawr.